My dear, you've grown enough now to understand truths that once I kept hidden. You've always asked me why I look away when people talk about love, why sometimes my smile fades when couples hold hands in front of me. Tonight, I'll tell you a story I've never fully told anyone. A story of the 1990s, when I was young in Houston, Texas. A story about how I was fooled, broken, rebuilt, and then fooled again by the cruelest twist of fate. It's the story of how love lifted me and destroyed me, and why I've never been the same woman since. Back in the early 90s, Houston was a place of light and shadows. I was in my early 20s, still a dreamer, still innocent in the ways of the world. The internet was new then. You can't imagine how exciting it felt to us. No one warned us of its dangers, because no one really knew them yet. We believed in strangers on screens the way we might believe in pen pals or neighbors. I was curious, lonely sometimes, and eager to believe in something beautiful. That's how it all began, with a message that appeared on my screen one late night. He said his name was Daniel, just Daniel. His words were clumsy, but sweet. He told me he lived across town, that he loved the same music I loved, that he also stayed awake late at night thinking about where life might take him. There was a sincerity in his words, or maybe it was just the sincerity I wanted to see. But slowly, message by message, I felt pulled toward him. He began sending me long emails, sometimes several pages worth. He asked me about my childhood, my favorite books, my fears, my dreams. He answered every word as though it mattered. He told me about the Houston skyline after the rain, about his long walks at night when he couldn't sleep. I can still remember sitting in my small bedroom, staring at the glow of the screen, smiling to myself as I read the words of a boy I thought was falling for me. Weeks passed, then months, and the messages became phone calls. His voice was calm, gentle, the kind of voice that slips past your guard and makes a home in your heart. He spoke as if he'd known me forever, and when he told me he loved me, I believed him. At 22, you don't question words like that. At 22, you believe. And then, one night, his voice broke. He told me his father was sick, that medical bills were drowning them, that his family was falling apart. He told me he felt ashamed even to ask, but that I was the only person he could turn to. I can still hear the way he cried on that call. How raw it sounded, how desperate. My heart split open. I wanted nothing more than to save him, so I gave him my savings, every single dollar I had put away. It wasn't much by today's standards, but back then, it was everything to me. Money I had worked long hours for, money I'd set aside to finish school, to buy a car, to maybe one day move into my own place. I handed it over without hesitation because I thought love meant sacrifice. He swore he'd pay it back, swore he'd never forget what I'd done. But things changed. The calls grew shorter, then fewer, then they stopped altogether. The emails vanished. The boy I thought I knew disappeared like smoke. And just like that, I realized I had been fooled. I had been scammed, not just for my money, but for my heart, for my trust, for my very sense of who I was. I can't explain to you the kind of emptiness that followed. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a fool staring back at me. I worked harder than ever just to survive. I took extra shifts, wiped tears away in bathrooms where no one could see me, forced smiles when people asked how I was. But inside, I was broken in a way that never fully healed. That girl I had been bright, hopeful, full of belief, she died in those months. In her place, there was someone harder, quieter, and more cautious. For years, I told myself love was a lie. I decided I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me again. But life is a strange thing, my dear. Just when we think we've figured out its rules, it changes the game. Years later, when the wounds had scabbed over, though never truly healed, I met someone. His name was Michael. I still remember the first time I saw him. I had gone to a cafe downtown, one I often visited to drink coffee and read after work. I was sitting there with a book when he came over and asked what I was reading. His smile was gentle, almost shy, his eyes curious but kind. That one question turned into a conversation, and that conversation turned into many more. Michael was nothing like Daniel, or so I thought. He was patient, steady, never rushed me. He didn't try to sweep me off my feet. He just walked beside me until I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. With him, I laughed again. With him, I dreamed again. I thought maybe, just maybe, the universe was giving me another chance. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. And for years, I believed I'd made the right choice. We built a home together here in Houston, filled it with laughter, warmth, and all the little things that make a life. For the first time since my youth, I felt safe. But fate has a cruel way of waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was many years into our marriage, after gray had begun to touch his hair and lines had begun to touch our faces. I wasn't searching for the past, but the past found me anyway. I was cleaning out boxes in the attic when I stumbled upon a stack of old papers. At first, I thought they were nothing, just printouts, notes, forgotten junk. But as I flipped through them, my blood ran cold. They were letters, old letters, the same kind Daniel had once written me, the same phrases, the same words that had once fooled me. My hands shook as I read them, my heart pounding louder than the storm that suddenly roared outside the house that day. It felt as if the universe itself was mocking me. I confronted him. I called his old name. For a moment, he tried to deny it. His face drained of color. His lips trembled. His eyes widened with the fear of someone whose mask has just been ripped away. But then he confessed. Yes, he was Daniel. Yes, he was the boy who had ruined me all those years ago. He told me he had been young, reckless, and desperate. He hadn't cared who he hurt back then. But years later, when he met me in that cafe, he had fallen in love for real. He said that was the truth, the only truth that mattered. He had changed. He swore he loved me more than he had ever loved anyone. And he had kept the past buried because he was terrified of losing me. And oh, my sweet boy, that was the cruelest part of it all. Because in his eyes, in his tears, in the way his voice broke as he begged me to understand, I knew he wasn't lying. He did love me, perhaps more than anyone ever had, but love built on a lie. What kind of love is that? Every memory we had made together twisted inside me like a knife. The nights of laughter, the mornings of quiet joy, The years of building a life, all of it poisoned. I had to choose to forgive and live in a house built on a rotten foundation, or to stand for the woman I had once been, the girl he had destroyed. It was the hardest choice I ever made. My hands trembled when I walked into that police station. My voice cracked as I gave them the evidence. My heart felt like it was being torn out of my chest when they took him away. Michael Daniel looked at me with eyes filled with love and pain as they led him out in handcuffs. He begged me with his gaze to take it back, to undo it, to let the past stay buried. But I couldn't. I couldn't betray myself again. He went to prison. I stayed behind, alone again, broken again, carrying wounds that never healed. He had been my greatest love and my greatest betrayal. And the saddest truth, the one I can barely admit even to myself, is that I still loved him even as I destroyed him. That was my punishment. That was my curse. So when you ask me why, I sometimes smile with sorrow. Why love feels like both a gift and a wound. This is why. Because I know what it means to give everything, to lose everything, and to find it all tangled together in the cruelest knot of fate. And that, my dear, is the story I've carried in silence for all these years.